Welcome back to another episode of Free the Plant, Free the People. I'm your host, LeVar Eady, and you know every episode is presented by BluRok Farms, which is my company, as well as we do have an affiliate link with leafwell.com, where if you use the code BluRockFarm10, you'll be able to get 10% off on your medical cannabis card. So again, that code is BluRockFarm10, and you can get 10% off your cannabis card at leafwell.com. So let's get into today's episode, which is going to be what I'm labeling as data. And if you watched this episode or you watched this podcast before, I'm big on data and I'm big on getting that information and presenting it to you guys. So some of the data that we're going to be going through is forecasting this year, 2025. And in this data, we're going to be specifically talking about sales, revenue, and kind of that side of the data, the financial sides of the data on how to drive and focus your businesses. So let's look at, we're going to be looking at 2025 and beyond. So not just 2025. And we're going to be looking at the global cannabis industry, not just the American or the national cannabis market. We're going to be looking globally as well. And so if we look at globally, it's predicted that the global cannabis market will be $40.5 billion in this year. And then by 2029, it's predicted to be $54 billion. So you can see that there is that growth. And in that period is almost, is almost doubling our another 15% or $15 billion added between 2025 now to 2029. And this is all according to BDSA, which is a data company that specifies in cannabis. So let's talk about how you can get this data, one, and then how you can use that data to help start having you formulate your businesses and the decisions that your business should take in order to be profitable and sustainable long term. So let's dive into the numbers and insights into the power that data can provide for your businesses. Let's start with first. A lot of this data that I'm presenting to you guys is data that I ascertained through a webinar that BDSA provided, providing this data. With that, plus other research that I've done, so all of this is kind of coming together to provide this data that I'm presenting to you today. But that's where a lot of the source of the data is coming from. So that's where I would have you refer to. And also, you can always contact me, as well as we have a consulting company that assists in helping financial planning, formulations for your businesses, marketing, formation of the corporation of your business, the direction on which you should take, how to become more profitable, how to become more sustainable, things of that nature to help you, especially in this cannabis and agricultural space. So let's go into the latest reports in the cannabis industry, and right now I'm going to be specifically talking about the U.S. market. Sales specifically in the U.S. are supposed to hit $33.5 billion in 2025. And if we go back to what I was saying earlier about what we stated for the total global market of $40.5 billion, that indicates that the U.S. market is having the largest swath or the largest share of the cannabis market globally. And so that also gives you as an entrepreneur that we're the drivers of how this industry is moving globally as well. So what we're doing here is going to affect those other industries and those other markets. And so that would be something to think about if you're thinking about international expansion of who's the drivers, how are those, and what are the drivers in those particular countries and those demographics in the space that you're trying to develop your business in. So, like I said, so the U.S. market is making a large swath of that space, and we know that not every state has medical or recreational cannabis use or sales available in those spaces. And we also know, if you watch other episodes, that we know that it usually goes, when it comes to legalization, it goes medical and then adult use. When adult use comes into play, you see a significant decrease in the medical sales as well. So that's something else to keep in mind and another factor of adult use versus medical use in those states. Now, we anticipate that in 2029 that the U.S. Market cannabis market is going to be 4 billion, dollars, which is the margin between the 2025 U.S. market sales and the global sales is a lot smaller than what we're seeing for the market sales for 2029. So that gives you some indication that the U.S. market is predicted to start to lose some gain or some shares in the overall market when it comes to cannabis. And that's something to also keep in mind, as well as the timing of your international expansion. That should be taken into account for that as well. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit to giving some numbers on that international side. Right now, it's estimated that $2.4 billion will be from the international side in 2025, and the leading drivers of that revenue sales is new markets, specifically Germany and Mexico. So outside of the U.S. having the largest share and being the largest driver of the cannabis market, it looks like Germany and Mexico are going to have and are going to be competing to take some of those market shares away, and that might be a result of what counts for that decrease in U.S. dominance in predicted cannabis sales in 2029. So that's something else we need to keep in mind as well. We have noticed that about $13.6 billion has been in new spending in regards to adult use versus medical use. So that is a margin that we're seeing, and we're seeing that in the new markets in the U.S. specifically is, as I stated, there is a decrease in sales in some cases as adult use comes into play, but overall we're seeing a stabilization of the medical use across the board. Yes, the sales do decrease because some of the people that were getting medical cars aren't necessarily using it as much with recreational sales, but the fact that it's not decreasing at a tremendous rate indicates that the real benefits of medical use are being given to the people that are needing it. At least that's giving some indication of it. More research will need to be done to determine, make sure that link is moving in that direction, but I believe that's what we'll notice or we'll see. When we're talking about new market openings and state expansion, that's something specifically as BIPOC entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs, which we really focus and push with BluRok Farms, is looking at new opportunities. So when these new states are emerging, like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota, that might be some source of interest for you. The other thing that I would take into account is on previous episodes, we talked about products that tend to be favored in the first couple of years when medical use comes online versus when adult use comes online. Those are things you should refer back to those episodes and keep those things in mind if you're going to plan on opening a dispensary or cultivation facility or manufacturing facility in these new emerging markets, because there is a trend that you can determine to help decrease your expenses, increase your profit margins by knowing what the right product is and the price points for which those products should be sold at to maximize on your profit margins in the very beginning of opening your facilities. Other markets that are coming on that will be coming online are Virginia, Alabama, and Kentucky. Alabama just has their medical cannabis licenses in place. Virginia and Kentucky are going to be moving shortly as well. And then you'll also see that you're going to see, I anticipate in those markets, you're going to see a lot smaller businesses than you saw initially in California, Colorado, what you're seeing in Boston, what you're seeing in New York, New Jersey, because I don't think the bigger MSOs, they eventually will get there, but I think they're going to take, there's going to be a lag similar to what we saw here in New Mexico. Cookies came late to the party as a result, because I think they really wanted to see how the market shook out, again, being such a smaller market. Um, we're seeing price compressions as well, specifically with flour. We're seeing that happen across the board in all of the medical states. And product differentiation as well in these markets as well. And that's what I was referring to about some of the other episodes. Some of the other things that I talked in other episodes really highlight that product differentiation and when that evolution of product changes with the uh, maturation of the consumer. Um, you'll notice that in the beginning, pre-rolls are the top product into newer markets because those newer markets, the people don't know how to roll their own joints or blunts. So a pre-roll is easy and accessible. They're not as familiar with the different strains of cannabis. So they tend to go with the pre-rolls as well, again, because they can try and sample a lot of different things and figure out what works best for them in those regards. But as that market matures and they become more educated on it, they see that there's more value in buying flour in bulk in whatever quantity that you can versus in the pre-rolls, which tend to be lower quality. Um, and so you'll then see markets then change their pre-rolls to higher quality, better quality as the market matures to try to hold on to those non-rolling, convenient customers that are becoming educated in the quality of the product as well. Um, a perfect example of this when you're talking about price compression is Michigan saw the steepest price decline of about negative 38%, which can be an indication of high competition and that causing that differentiation, as well as I'm not familiar specifically with Michigan if it's a plant count or not. I mean, not plant count, excuse me, license count, if there's a cap on how many licenses can be given in that space, or if it's more open where it's unlimited licenses similar to New Mexico. Because that also changes how the market is moving and where the price points go as a result of that. So that's something to keep in mind, as well as if it's a new emerging market or if it's a more mature established market, what the price points look at and in that regards, as well as the structure of the licensing structure. If it's an open market where unlimited licensing, or a limited market where there's a certain number of licenses that are going to give out and that is the cap at which the licenses will be given, that does change the price points and how that market moves a little bit differently than in those other markets. So you want to take all this data and begin to leverage it as best you can. And one of the ways that you can do that is, like I said, is taking to the account of the behavior of the buyers, the functionality of the product, and then make sure that that is meeting the demands of the customers that are going to be taking place in that space. And so let's say you know that the demographic of the area that you plan on putting your dispensary is really, really highly focused on wellness. So then you might want to more focus on those type of products that you keep on your shelves, as in wellness products, salves, tinctures, edibles that aren't really for the purpose of necessarily getting you high, but for alleviating some sort of illness or symptom. So those are the things that you kind of want to keep in mind in thinking that, as well as keeping that in mind in product formulation. So when you're thinking about like your bath bomb, if you know that this demographic isn't having traumatic issues with like pain alleviation, then you might want to change the formulation of that bath bomb to give more aromatherapy for other wellness aspects versus actual THC and CBD in the bath bomb to help with actual physical aspects. Let's say they're using it for, your demographic is using it more for depression or things of that nature. And so then that aromatherapy aspect would be more beneficial than potentially um, loading it up with a lot of THC and CBD in the bath bomb in that regard. So just kind of thinking of those things and in different ways of what would benefit you and your business while maximizing on getting the return that you need to maintain the business. Um, Other things to keep in mind is knowing the data points of the things that I was talking about, of all this information, of how are the consumer wanting to get their product delivered to them. Do they want it delivered at home? Do they want to come in to the retail to really experience it, smell different jars? Like for me, that's the consumer I am. I want to be able to smell the different products. I want to look at them. I want to see how it's presented, how it was manicured before I buy it. So delivery wouldn't necessarily be optimal for me in that regard until after I experienced and I had an understanding of the quality that this dispensary or that grower is providing on a consistent basis. But if you're somebody that doesn't care about that and it's more about convenience, then delivery might be the avenue that's more convenient for you. And then you have to look at the entire demographic of the space that you're at and determine which of those sets fits your business, the cost that you have to devote to that delivery system, if it's delivering it at home or having a brick and mortar. Each of those have their benefits in regards, and each of them have their downsides. But that can really drive and focus how you determine your retail and distribution strategies. So if you want to do direct-to-consumer model or you want to do B2B, that's all up to you really. But using the data available to you to help you make those decisions and not just picking them just because it felt good. It should be that it feel good, but it also has data to back it up. So those are the kind of things that a lot of the data that was indicating from BDS looking forward to this year and then moving all the way till 2029. The other things that I want to keep in mind that I want to kind of touch on is the global aspect of it as well, of like I was talking about with Germany and Mexico. Here for New Mexico, that is a potential opportunity if our government gets together and gets on point of what the cannabis landscape is going to look like nationally. Because I don't think without that happening, international trade is going to be difficult to almost impossible. And I think us being in New Mexico and being so close to Mexico, if we can get our legal structure together on how international trade would go, I'm not going to get into the tariffs, but how international trade would go just amongst cannabis, I think that would provide a lot of entrepreneurs, specifically here in New Mexico, another potential revenue stream of international sales. We're right there, being able to do that. And that also gives potential more customers of coming over the border legally to visit New Mexico, potentially just for cannabis, if that's something that they can then take back to Mexico and enjoy at their own homes on the other side of the border. So I think that is another avenue that I think people, especially here in New Mexico, I'm sure they have thought about it and are thinking about it, but if it is not on your radar, that's something that you might want to be on your radar of what that looks like, how that would function and work for your company. What are the price points that you would sell it to them at? Are you going to have a different wholesale price versus consumer price? Do you have the yields to be able to support this new emerging market? So those are things to keep in mind and to add to the aspect of projecting for your business long term. Other things to think about as BIPOC and women entrepreneurs in the space is, all these opportunities are out there to give to you, or that for new streams of revenue, but do you have the infrastructure to be able to support it? If you do increase your yield as a cultivator, is the retail space that you're selling it to or the manufacturer that you're having process your flower, are they at a position to be able to withstand the yields that you're giving them? Does the retail space have this shelf space to provide the yields at the timing that you're trying to give it to them? These are all things you need to think about before you start increasing yields, increasing your production methods, spending money on your infrastructure to do those things, making sure that every aspect on the chain of this, of getting your products all the way to the consumer, is sustainable, is capable to handle the workload that you're trying to provide on it. A big issue with a lot of black and brown businesses is scaling up too quickly, not having enough capital, and compliance. When you scale up to a larger facility, the it tends to be harder to be compliant if you don't have systems in place. And the systems in place for a larger facility is not the same as a small facility. And that's one of the things that I push to young cultivators that are saying, like, I grow at home, I'm going to just start a business. And I'm like, I'm not telling you not to, but I'm telling you there's a lot more things that needs to go in place between those 2 points. Even if you had a large a garage grow, that's not the same thing as running a 10,000 square facility that has to be compliant. Those two spaces are not the same. Now, you can run them the same if you are thinking about it in that regard, and that would be my suggestion to all you young people out there that are growing at home. If your plan is to grow at a commercial level, even if you're starting at home, you can make sure you're implementing processes that would, if imagine that your home grow had to go through the vigorous testings of a commercial space. If you're operating in that regard, then yes, some of these things can translate, but you still have to think about scaling up to that level, because again, a one-man garage grow, again, is not the same thing as a 10,000 square foot facility with 8 rooms. The electrical load is not the same. The airflow is not the same. Scalability that way. It's not just a 1-to-1 ratio of, I had a 8,000 BTU AC in my garage that was 500 square feet. So I'm just going to do the math of 500 square feet times divided by 10,000 square feet, and then take that by 8,000 and divide that by that to give you what your airflow capacity could be for your AC unit. No, that's not going to work like that. So those are the things that I'm talking about in regards to, there is some changes that you'll have to make scaling up to those levels. And that's just very minuscule things that I'm talking about in that regard there. So that's why we have our consulting business. Again, BluRok Farm. Definitely shoot us an email if that is something that you are considering and you want help on determining how to scale up those things, making sure that your business plan is solid, things of that nature, how to attract investors. These are all things that we can help you with by visiting or emailing me at lavar@blurokfarm.com. We're on Instagram as well, BluRok Farm, BluRok_farms, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere you can find BluRok Farm. But yeah, so those are the things that I'm suggesting that you do when you're thinking about scaling up and using data that's available to you. BDSA does have, it's a company where you can pay to get the data that you're requesting to help scale up your business. I never want to say not to get data, but it doesn't make sense to get data if you don't know how to use the data. So I would say find free resources to get as much data and much information as you can first. Dip into that well as deep as you can until you're at the point where that data isn't providing you adequate information to make the decisions you want to make, and you have exhausted it to the point that you can't exhaust it anymore before you start paying for data. And one more caveat to that is that you really understand how to use the data that you're going to be paying for. Because again, having data and not having access or understanding how to use it is you're wasting your money. And so again, those are the things that I would recommend. And then going with consulting services that you can afford, but make sure you're vetting them out as well. There's a lot of people out here that are fraudulent, just trying to get money for services that they don't really have the capacity to provide in the timing that you need to receive it in. That's useful for you. Thank you again. I mean, I feel like I've been talking a lot about this data stuff, about this BDS, about the numbers and the revenue in that regards. But I just want to close by stating and highlighting a few things. It's expected to be $40.5 billion in 2025 in the cannabis industry globally, as well as that's going to be driven mostly by adult use and the U.S. market. There has been price compression across all the markets, and then which is a key indicator that differentiation is key. You have to separate yourself, make a brand for yourself, have exceeding high level quality in your product to differentiate yourself, to help maintain those, to fight off price compression. Also look at value-added products. So if you have already a really good product, try to figure out add-on products to that value-added product already to expand on that. And then look out for new markets in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia as opportunities for, or as a place for new opportunities, excuse me. And then make sure that you're, specifically for Black, Brown, BIPOC, and women entrepreneurs, capital is going to be key, but all money isn't good money. Make sure you're really thinking about the contracts that you're signing, how much equity you're giving away. If you are giving equity away, what's the going to return on investment for those investors, and just really make strategic partnerships to access that capital, so that way you're not, giving away everything just to get the business started. Because then at the end of the day, you get this successful company going, you don't have any equity in it. You gave it all away to the investors. And so now they're eating off of the hard work that you provided, as well as already going to get the capital that they invested back in. So think about that and how you do that. And again, that's why we're here to help figure out strategic ways for you to get partnerships so it doesn't harm you and the generational wealth that you're trying to create for you and your family. It's similar to, I'll end on this, is the way that you're going to want to formulate that is similar to the stock market. Yeah, it's always great to invest in the stock market, but it's best to invest in it when things are on its low point, when it's a good buy point versus a good sell point. And you don't want to do that with your business. Give everything away when it was really not a good sell point, and rather a buy point. So, again, reach out to me if you'd like to have some consulting. This is going to be LeVar Eady at BluRokFarm.com. Again, that's LeVaready at BluRokFarm, BluRokFarm.com for consulting needs. So yeah, and thank you again for listening to another episode of Free the Plant, Free the People. It's presented by BluRok Farms, which is my company. Again, please check out BluRok Farm. And if you are in need of any discounts on your medical cannabis card, go to leafwell.com and put in the code BluRokFarm10. Again, that's BluRokFarm10. As you can see here on the screen, that's going to be the code to get you 10% off or $10 off, depending on what state you are in. Yeah, so, hey, money off is money off. I'll take it. So again, thank you again for listening. Please leave in the comments some data that you like to use for making decisions for your company, some data companies where you gather or get the data from, or data sources. We're all about sharing resources here at Free the Plant, Free the People, but just make sure that you acknowledge where you got that source from, especially if it's good information. So again, thank you for listening to another episode of Free the Plant, Free the People. I'm your host, LeVar, and have a good day and smoke something good.